Several years ago, my wife and I dared to take on this 1960s fixer-upper that needed a lot of work. So over the last several years, we've spent a ton of time transforming every room in this house from outdated to gorgeous. But there's still one room in this house that's yet to receive Andrea's magic touch, our home office. This room has basically functioned as a storage room for us, and it's in pretty embarrassing shape. So Andrea's made it her mission to turn this final room in our old fixer-upper into something absolutely gorgeous. But as usual, this project will not be complete without plenty of adversity.
I'm about to quit.
So join us for the ride as we take this ugly room and turn it into our dream office space. If you caught part 1 of this series, then you know that last week we started by cleaning out the office, which took quite a while. Then in phase 2, we began demo, where we took out all of the existing shelving, and after demo was complete, we made a run to get all of the supplies we would need to completely rebuild this office. The only challenge was that we had to fit all of those materials into the back of our minivan, which we did successfully.
Yo, we're in, let's go.
From there, Andrea spent nearly an entire week building brand new bookshelves that would go all the way to the ceiling. And this week, there's even more to do, as we'll be cutting and installing new butcher block countertops, finishing out a ton of trim work, prepping this room for paint, and finally adding our first beautiful pops of color to this space.
All right, it's a new week. We are ready to get back to work in this office. And the first big task for today is to get these old desktops removed, which means I need to pull down the bookcases that we set up there so that I can get them taken out. Hopefully it's fast and they're not like screwed in with hidden screws that are filled with layers and layers of paint. These are really hard to get out. I was really hoping for no screws.
This old house, you never know, huh?
You never know what you're gonna get.
An old house is like a box of chocolates, ain't it, darling? You never know what you're gonna get.
So we're gonna take a quick pause from the project to say a big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. So a VPN allows you to keep your online identity safe by encrypting all of the information sent between your device and the internet, which means that it keeps your personal data protected from big companies or cyber criminals. We've heard of a number of creators actually getting their account hacked, so having something like Surfshark VPN will protect you from that. And a VPN can also keep you protected when you're using public Wi-Fi, which can kind of be a hotspot for hackers. But more than just keeping you safe online, Surfshark can actually change the real location of your device, so you can actually access and unblock all content libraries and streaming services, even when you're in a completely different country. Like when Andrea and I took our first out-of-country trip together about 9 months ago, where we didn't have access to all the normal things we might watch, and so we could simply change our virtual location back to our home country and access all of our favorite shows again. So if you're interested in trying out Surfshark VPN, enter promo code DIYWife to get up to 6 additional months for free. Plus, Surfshark is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's really no risk in trying it. So be sure to check out our link in the description below, and thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video.
All right, got my safety glasses and my, you just call that a hammer. What is it?
Trusty mallet.
Hopefully this thing will just, you know, come off when I tap it up.
Just give it a nice little tap, tap,
It's
tap.
so loud because it's like so echoey in this room.
Wow, just a few nails in it, you know?
Yeah, a lot of large nails. The first piece of the desktop came out easily enough, but the second one would prove to be a little bit more challenging. Uh-oh.
That's not good.
For the love of Pete!
What's going on?
These are really hard to get out. I was really hoping for no screws. Golly, that's a long, fine threaded screw.
Save yourself.
I think it moved a little bit. These old screws were giving me quite a hard time as they were nearly impossible to get out. And no matter how much I sat there with my impact drill, some of them just would not budge. This is nuts.
And what's hard to capture here on film is how incredibly loud this whole process was.
You tired? You want me to try?
Yeah. Calling in the D team, the Dean team.
You know she's getting desperate when she calls me in to do handiwork.
Tired and I need the muscles. Oh my gosh, the big guns are coming out.
I got the muscle, babe.
What am I doing again? I have very low hopes for success. I'm just spinning.
I think you're making it worse.
I don't think it's gonna come out. No matter how much muscle you have.
A-team, back in.
That's not good. If it won't even go on the low setting, it's done. I'm gonna go see if I can find my multi-tool again. Since these screws just absolutely would not come out using a drill, I decided to go grab my multi-tool and cut them. Unfortunately, my multi-tool blade was too dull to even cut through all of these screws, and so out of frustration, I decided to move on to something else. I don't like this!
This is quickly becoming the most annoying job we've ever done.
I'm about to quit. I ripped it off. I'm so tired. I feel like we don't want an office that bad, right? Let's just call it a storage room and move on. Next project. After I finally finished removing the rest of the desktops, I made a pretty embarrassing discovery. Yeah, you wanna know something funny?
What? That's not funny.
Not that. All those screws I worked so hard to take out,
Yeah?
I didn't even need to take them out.
No.
This is not even in my way.
Baby.
It's probably actually a helpful piece to leave there.
From there, I continued removing the rest of the cabinet doors.
Alright, next on the list, I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these drawers, not just the fronts, but the whole box and everything. I actually ordered new boxes when I ordered my drawer fronts, and so I'm excited about that. And new drawer slides too, so these are going to look really nice and they're going to work really well, which is exciting. I'm not really sure what's wrong with it. This is why we're replacing the drawer boxes and drawer slides, because about half of these don't work. Taking the drawer boxes out is supposed to be an easy step. This is silly. I think I got it!
Oh, cute chariots of fire! How was that, huh? What a treat.
I'm tired from that one drawer. Alright, next we need to measure for our butcher block desktop that we're going to be putting in here, and unfortunately they don't have the right depth, and so first I'm going to measure for my depth so that I can rip them down with my circular saw, and then I'll worry about getting like the lengths cut correctly. So we did actually get our butcher block desktop at a really good discount, because I noticed the last two of the pieces I wanted had some pretty significant damage, but it was only on one side for both of them. So I was like, these are totally still usable, but they're beat up. And so we asked for a discount and we got it.
Like I mentioned earlier, I decided to cut the depth for my desktops first, and so I used my circular saw and rip cut guide to do that.
That's nerve-wracking cutting that. I'm like, this is an expensive piece of wood and I really don't want to mess up.
After I finished cutting down the first piece of desktop, we pulled out the next piece of butcher block and got ready to repeat the same process.
Alright, like I said earlier, this is the depth for our desktop, and this should be the last big cut for this entire project. I'll have like crown molding and some trim pieces, but I do want to note again, my desktop was actually different depths for my cabinet side and then the desktop side, and so that's why I've had to change this measurement a little bit for both of those different measurements.
That was cheesy.
Can you believe we used to just carry this thing around every time?
Yeah. This feels like some sort of strange CrossFit workout. Yeah. I hate this thing. That's the strength that I needed. Yeah.
Okay, before I finish cutting these, I'm gonna go double check my measurements for the width of my desktop, and I'll do the bookshelf sides first and kind of set those in place, and then I can measure for the last piece.
The butcher block was too deep to cut all the way through with my miter saw, and so I just flipped it over and then lined up my cut to finish cutting all the way through.
Alright, now I'm going to carry these two pieces that I just cut inside, set them in place because then that'll allow me to measure for that final desktop piece, but I need these in place first.
After we brought everything in, thankfully the butcher block fit perfectly and it was starting to look a little better in here.
It's going to look really different when we get that wallpaper covered up. I feel like that's throwing me off.
But the desktops look awesome.
Yeah, I just have to decide stain color. I still don't know. Okay, I think I just remembered that this is actually exactly 8 feet, and so I don't think I need to trim any off. That means I need your help carrying this mega piece in. Alright, next I need to get these shelves put back in place, and then I'll have some trim that I need to cut on the walls, but I want to get them up there so I can see where I need to cut. Like we're making some progress, you know. We're not tearing things apart anymore. We're sort of starting to put them back together.
I used my stud finder to mark where the studs were so that I could attach the bookshelves to the studs.
We're on the way. We're on the way. I'm just checking it out.
Yep.
On your little perch.
I needed a chair. It's still like a mess, but it's almost pretty. This feels exciting. All right, we've got these up here on the desktop, but I have this one piece of wall trim that extends a little bit too far, so I'm gonna trim it with my multi-tool, and I think I can actually do that with the shelves in place, just because the sharp parts of the blade are in the end, so I won't be hitting these at all. We'll see if that works, and then if I can pry that off without having to pull these back down. Alright, now that I have the shelves placed where I want them to go, I'm going to actually attach them to the wall so that we can pull the desktop back out so that I can spray everything without having to worry about covering up the butcher block. And that also means I can stain my butcher block outside. It's just kind of a pain to stain things inside. I don't like it personally because there's just like such strong smells with it. So.
Once I had the bookshelves attached to the wall, I could pull the desktops beneath them back out.
All right, next I'm gonna go ahead and measure and cut the crown molding so we can get that installed.
After getting the measurements, I went outside and set up my miter saw so I could start cutting the crown molding.
Okay, before I start installing the crown molding, I'm actually going to slide the desktop back in, at least on the left side, because I noticed when I pulled it out that piece moves a little bit, and so I just want to make sure everything is placed perfectly when I attach the trim, because I don't want that to be in the wrong spot when I like caulk and paint everything. So
Crown molding may seem like a small step that creates a lot of extra work, but to me, it completely changes the look of a space and can really help to elevate the overall look.
One side down, one to go, so gotta measure this side and then we'll go finish up.
Progress seemed to be coming along nicely, so that meant it was about time for us to run into another roadblock.
Freaking serious.
What's the issue?
I think maybe that means the battery is low. I just tested it and it worked. Yes. Alright, crown molding is done. And that's a good stopping point for today. We don't have quite enough time to go run errands and stuff before we get the kids, so we'll pick it up back here next time. We're getting really close to getting ready to paint, which is so exciting. All right, it's a new day, and the first thing we need to do is head to Lowe's to get all the last little things that we need to finish everything up to get ready for paint.
Wow, feels like Christmas in here. Andrea was getting everything she needed for paint prep, and then a blast from the past hit us, and it couldn't be ignored.
I'm just gonna pretend like I don't know you. Once we got home, we unloaded everything and got ready for the first steps of the paint prep process.
First step today, I'm gonna fill any holes or some of the areas where there's like the wallpaper and it's just uneven on the wall with drywall compound. That way that can be drying while I start moving on to the next things, and it'll be dry when I'm ready to sand it off.
And what is this happening over here?
It's like playing dress up with your house, I guess. I might steal my living room chairs because I really like those in here. They just look like a good office chair.
First, I scraped off some of the old caulk and just the loose pieces of paint from the wall, and then I applied drywall compound to this area where the old shelves left a bit of an uneven area on the wall.
There's also a few just random little holes from stuff hanging on the walls. I'm gonna go ahead and patch those up real quick too. And lastly, I'm gonna fill the holes where the hinges were on the old cabinet doors because we're using a different style of hinge this time. The last thing I need to do before I start actually cutting some of the new trim to fill in is there are a couple of pieces where the trim is too short because the old desktop actually had an extra piece that came down over the front of the cabinets, and so the trim pieces only came up to meet that, so there's a gap at the top of them. So I'm going to pull those out so I can cut a longer piece there.
Once I finished removing the old trim pieces that were too short, I started taking measurements for the new trim that I would install. Once I had all of my measurements, I went outside, set up my miter saw, and started making cuts. Once I had made the first several cuts, I brought my trim pieces inside and used my brad nailer to attach them.
I need to cut a small strip to go above the window there. Alright, that's it for all of the little trim repair stuff. Next, we need to pull these butcher block desktop pieces back out because I want to get started sanding everything and try and see if I can remove some of the paint that's like really loose. I just don't want them in here to get all dirty, so we're gonna get these out of the way. We got the desktop out of the way. Next, I've got my orbital sander in here and then my shop vac. Taped them together, and I'm gonna sand all of the built-ins where the paint is kind of peeling off, like especially the areas where it can get hit or dinged, because if I try and paint over all of this, my new paint's just gonna come off with all the old stuff.
Sanding definitely added quite a bit of extra time and mess to clean up, but I know that this is going to help my new paint job really last.
Alright, I got all of the built-in part that needed to be sanded. I'm just going to wait for the wall part where I patched that to dry, and I'll sand it by hand later because it is still not dry yet, and so I can't sand it. But I'm going to pull my sander off here. I'm going to go ahead and vacuum the entire room, and then we'll start giving everything a good scrub down.
After doing all of the demo and then sanding, this room was quite a dusty mess, but I really want everything to be as clean as possible for painting.
All right, next we're going to use some crud cutter and microfiber rags to wipe everything down, including our walls, because the walls are dirty. But first I need to pull these blinds down just in case I knock some more dust, and I need to be able to wipe around the window and stuff. Got you a rag.
This was a very time-consuming task, and so Andrea grabbed my help to clean, and we did our best worker bee impersonation.
Alright, next up I'm going to caulk all of the just seams where I put in new trim or anywhere where I see some cracking along the ceiling. It's almost time to get our kids. We're going to see how fast we can go on this.
There are a lot of different techniques when it comes to applying and removing caulk, but I like to simply apply a bead and then wipe it away with my hand. But if I have something like baby wipes on hand, those also work really well. I end up saying this every time we caulk a room, but it is one of those steps that you cannot skip. It just makes it look so much more professional and finished and is worth every little bit of effort. After giving all of the caulk time to dry, we were ready to mask off the room.
All right, it's a big day today. It's time to start the painting process. I would say painting process. We've been doing the painting process for a couple of days. I just need to mask everything off, and then after that, I'm ready to paint. So I'm going to be using my little paper and tape dispenser to mask off the window and the ceiling. That way I can choose the kind of tape I want to use, because if you've been here for a little while and you remember us masking off our kids' playroom. Oh shoot, look at the ceiling. Too textured to stick anything to. I love this thing and I feel like I always get asked about it. I'll try and remember to link it, but if you just search tape and paper dispenser, you can find it on Amazon. Lowe's and Home Depot usually carry these. Next, I'm going to go ahead and mask off the edge of the ceiling all the way around.
Masking is one of those steps that takes so much time, but I still do it because I prefer spraying to rolling, and in the end, I still think this is a lot faster and you get a much better finish.
All right, I finished masking off the ceiling and the window, and next I'm just going to cover the floors. Got the hard stuff over with first, so I'm like, I can do this. I can do the floors.
The majority of the floor went pretty quickly, but once I got to the cabinet, it was a little more tedious to go around that.
That it? I really like what you've done with the place though.
We're going for Christmas look here with the red and green paper. All right, before we start actually spraying, I'm gonna be a little smarter this time, and I'm going to build a little air filtering device. What I like about this is I'm using disposable filters, so it's not like, we have air purifiers, but I don't like running those in like a room with a bunch of paint spray because it will ruin them. And so this is just a really great way if you're doing construction or if you're spraying paint inside the house. This is an awesome way to filter the air. That's what we're gonna do. So I've got a bunch of these huge, like 4-inch thick filters. I've seen people do it with thinner ones, but these are gonna work a little better. And so I'm gonna set these up, duct tape them together, and attach my fan to one side so that then the air is getting sucked through the filters and filtering all the paint out of the air. All right, it's built. I'm gonna do a little test run.
Nice.
All right. I have all of the masking done, my little DIY air cleaner here, and so I am ready to prime and go get my spray gun all set up. It's time for the paint suit.
What, was that a NASA suit? Put the hood on, let's see it. I mean, not that you look that cool, but I'm just saying no one makes it look cooler than you do.
And I ended up finishing this entire room in less than 30 minutes. All right, I gotta clean the primer out of my gun. We'll let that dry in there for a few hours, and then we gotta go pick up the paint. I did call and have them mix it, so it should be ready. We just need to go get it.
All right, so I have been tasked to go pick up paint. It is currently raining a little bit, just a little sprinklage. That's all right. Let's go, big girl. So the paint store is only maybe 5-7 minutes from our house, and I will be picking up 3 gallons of paint that are supposed to already be ready, so hopefully this will be a quick trip. Pick up the last thing. In and out. Thankfully, the paint was all ready, and I was able to get back home without wasting any time.
All right, primer is finally dry. Dean went and grabbed the paint. Oh, I'm so excited about this part. But first, I have our new doors in all of our drawer fronts that are pre-primed, but I need to lay them all on here and get them propped up on little paint tripods because I'm gonna paint them in this room when I paint everything else.
As usual, I use my little paint tripods to hold up all of the doors and drawer fronts.
All right, have all the doors and drawer fronts set up, so I'm ready to grab a can of paint and get that into the paint sprayer so we can spray first coat. I love this part. I'm like, I'm so tired, and I'm like, I'm about to see the color on. That's exciting.
After prepping her spray gun and donning her paint suit,
How are you so cool?
Andrea was ready to start applying the first coat of color.
I went with Benjmain Moore's Creekside Green, and it's the perfect gray-green with just a slight touch of blue to it. And it's a little hard to capture the color with the lighting in this space right now, but I think it is the perfect color for this room. So much work has happened leading up to this point, and it is always so exciting to see the final color going on.
How'd it go in there?
That was hard, I'm sweaty.
Are you a sweaty Betty?
Oh my gosh. All right, it's late. Our kids are all getting ready for bed. I'm gonna do one final coat, and that will hopefully be enough.
If you've been watching us for any time at all, you know that I always spray at least 2 coats on, because when you're spraying, even if it looks like that first coat gave good coverage, it's going to need the second coat to get really full coverage and just for durability.
All right, it's the next day. Everything is dried. It looks so good. I love the color. I'm like, this is what I wanted. It was a little risky because I didn't actually get like a paint sample to put on the wall. I was going off my little color card, but I have done it enough to where I felt comfortable doing that. But it's a little part in the back of my mind that I don't tell Dean about until this point when I'm like, oh, okay, good. Yeah, it is. It looks good. Let's go ahead and pull this paper off. It kind of feels like a moment of truth. I'm sure at least some paint's gonna get peeled off of the floor like quarter ounce.
I've said this before, but pulling off the paper and plastic always feels a bit like opening up a Christmas present for me, and I was so pleased with how this is turning out.
How are you feeling about this color?
Oh, I love it. It's just what I wanted. I knew it was.
Well, man, you did about 1,001 things this week. You did an absolutely incredible job finishing up the trim, doing all of the paint prep, and then of course, adding that beautiful color of paint. And it's starting to look amazing in there.
Yeah, this was definitely a really full week. Painting is always a massive job, and so we had some late work days in there, but we got it done. It's looking so good.
And if you thought this week was exciting, you're definitely gonna wanna stick around because next week, we're finishing up this room and we'll be staining the butcher block, adding new furniture, adding all the finishing details, and this room is going to look absolutely incredible. So stick around and we'll see you in the next episode. Well, we didn't really say anything very funny today. What if I was like,
By the end of the video, it was just like,
what if you were like 5'5" and I was like 6'5"?
Need a little help?
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You're so tall. Yes.
6 foot 1/2 inch.
Nice.
Might as well be 7 feet.
How tall was I? We measured the other day. I think I've grown because I used to be like
You're
just
like
under
5'10" and a half.
I could have sworn they always told me 5'9"3/4 at the doctor's office. I've grown, man.
You're like 5'10" and a quarter.
Nice. And you're like, what were you? Just barely over 6 foot?
Like 6 foot and a quarter inch, 6 foot and a half
Yeah.
inch.
It's probably the hair that did it. Hey.
Hey.
All right.
Mom.
I'm just kidding. All right.
Mom.
That's it for today. Tell them bye. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.